Today we are going to discuss the paper How to Study Neural Mechanisms of Multiple Tasks. This paper essentially proposes a framework to think clearly about neural mechanisms of agents that solve multiple tasks. This is what I presented at Mila yesterday, and I'm just recording the video of the same. So before getting into the paper, when we say studying neural mechanisms of multiple tasks, what do we mean by neural mechanisms and what do we mean by tasks? So the paper defines modules as groups of neurons. It defines neural mechanism as how populations of neurons interact to solve a problem, and they solve tasks in a slightly weird way. They call task as a set of computations that an agent needs to perform to optimize an objective. So it's talking about computations that an agent needs to perform. So the definition of task here is taking an agent-centric view, which is not in line with the way I see tasks. When we say tasks generally, imagine a task, what we actually refer to is the problem that we're trying to solve, irrespective of how the agent is solving it. But seems like the definition of task here involves how the agent is solving it, and we'll look at a specific example of that later in the presentation. And this is how this presentation is organized. This is quite similar to how they presented it in the paper. So we'll initially start off by talking about why study multiple tasks, and then we'll look into the organization of tasks, or we'll define tasks more formally, and then we move on to the main points of the paper, where we discuss various ways of classifying these multitask learning agents, and we do it based on performance and based on overlapping neurons, and we talk about how both of these relate, and in light of all this information, how we can train neural networks. So the paper gives several examples to motivate why we need to study multiple tasks, and they start off with this example. They say that in classical cognitive tasks, we study only one task at a time. So many models can explain the same observed data. But if we start studying multiple tasks at the same time, we have to find a model that would explain data across all these tasks. We need a model that performs well on all these tasks. And by well, I mean in line with the observed data. And that way we can have a more narrow class of models and which represent how the agent is learning. And another reason why they think learning multiple tasks is helpful is because it might help understand suboptimal representations. For example, this is the activity in the rat's brain. So when you're recording cells as it solves a task, this is how the recording looks like. The y-axis is cell number and x-axis is time as it solves the task. So all of these graphs are for various days and various sortings. So this is day 1, day 10 and day 20, and this is how this is cells sorted in specific ways. So if you see the activity here, what you essentially see is a clear pattern in which neurons are firing, but if you see the mean activity of the same cells on day 10, you don't see that clear pattern anymore, and you don't see it on day 20 either. So representations inside the rat's brain is changing over time. And an important point to note here is that the performance of the rat is not changing over days. This is day 1 is after the rat has achieved a stable performance on task, and even though the number of days increase, the rat's performance is same, but the representations keep changing. But then if you resort the activity that you measure on day 10, you can get a similar graph back. Same for day 20. So essentially the idea here is that the rat is somehow reorganizing how it is representing its environment and how it is solving the task. And they say that these things might make sense only in light of studying multiple tasks. If you're studying just one task at a time, it doesn't make sense to use this additional energy to reorganize how you're solving the task inside your head from the rat's perspective. This is called the representational drift. And they also say that this helps us answer interesting questions. For example, are different tasks supported by overlapping populations of neurons? And if they overlap, how strong is the overlap? So here's how they talk about tasks. They say tasks are instances of meta-tasks, and tasks can be split into subtasks. So this is one example. A meta-task would be f of x is equal to ax plus b. A task would be a specific instantiation of the meta-task for specific values of a and b, and a subtask is so 2x plus 1 has multiplication with 2 and addition with 1. You can look at both of them as separate tasks. And so yeah, this is where their definition of task makes more sense. This gives you some clarity on how they look at tasks as. So if you have an agent that is learning some mapping from sensory stimulus to motor action, there are many ways that an agent could do it. For example, it can just use a single layer, very wide network to map from sensory stimulus to motor actions, or it can use subtasks like the brain does, where you have sensory processing, decision making, action generation, and so on. So in this case, where you have just one layer, they say that the task cannot be split into subtasks. But in this, if the agent is solving it this way, they would call, by their definition of task, it can be split into subtasks where sensory processing, decision making, and action generation can be seen as various subtasks. So now that we have discussed about why we need to study multiple tasks and the organizations of tasks, let's go into more depth talking about how we can classify these multitask learning agents. So one way to classify is by performance on multiple tasks. So they call the spectrum as specialization and flexibility. So if you're learning a set of tasks and you overfit to them, you get really good at these tasks so that you're unable to generalize to tasks that are different. These class of multitask learning agents they call as specialized agents. And if you have agents that don't really overfit your tasks, they learn, but they don't get too involved in getting super high performance on these tasks by compromising their performance on other tasks. To just formalize this more clearly, if you consider an agent that has learned a set of tasks and is about to learn a task that is dissimilar, you call the solution as specialized if it has high performance on all the S and it finds it difficult to learn X. And they say that system 1 in humans is one example for this, which is used after extensive training in a task. Once you get habituated, you do things without thinking. And they would call it a flexible solution if you have moderate performance on S, but you find it easier to learn other dissimilar tasks. And they call system 2 as an example for this, and especially system 2 when it is involved in early in the learning and in times of conflict of doing a task. And they also mentioned a disclaimer that specialized solutions can sometimes appear flexible if X is similar to all of these tasks that it is trained on. Not all, any of these tasks that it is trained on. Another classification can be made based on how groups of neurons interact for each solution. So one way that, so here red is task 1 and blue is task 2. So if for solving task 1 you have one subset of neurons that are involved, and to solve task 2 there's another subset of neurons, they call this as a modular architecture. But then if all of the neurons are involved in learning each of the tasks, then you would call it as flexible. You would call it as mixed selective. And essentially they make the claim that highly modular architectures are in general specialized, and mixed selective architectures are in general more flexible. And they back this up using two reasons. Number one, brain, which we will be going into, and reason two would come up later in the presentation, which is dynamics and recurrent neural networks. But I would like to slightly mention a thing about this reason too. So essentially, if you train a recurrent neural network to learn on 20 interrelated tasks, and you try to get really good at those tasks, and you have a very high pressure to perform well on those tasks, you kind of overfit to these tasks and you don't perform well on other tasks. So when you have an RNN learning something like this, it turns out that modularity emerges out of it, even though you don't specifically program that in. And now, so the authors argue that modularity of the brain is a result of specialization. They say that modularity is especially in the visual pathway of the brain, the early sensory areas, the face processing areas, and so on. And they say that it can generalize to tasks that share common subtasks. So if you have a new kind of image classification tasks, because the early processing is still the same, even if you learn some in image classification tasks, you will be able to perform well on other image classification tasks. But that's about it. You are not more flexible than that. And so they argue that mixed selectivity is what happens in the prefrontal cortex, where such kind of classification or hierarchical pathway is much harder to figure out. And they quote a paper that claims that when primates are doing highly cognitive demanding tasks, 40% of the neurons are engaged. And this is actually a very big number. I was surprised by that, and this also came up in yesterday's discussion, but I would let you go and check the paper if you're more interested in it. And so now, in light of all of this information, how do we train neural networks to be flexible or specialized? They say that training methods influence if agents are specialized or flexible, and they argue that conventional training methods that need a lot of training data are generally specialized. For example, CNN trained on natural images. And there is also evidence, I'm sorry for not putting in the reference for this paper, but this is an interesting paper, and I talked about this image in more detail in my previous talk. You can check that out. I'm not going to talk about this in more detail. And this is what we discussed earlier. When an RNN is trained on 20 interrelated tasks, specialized modules emerge under the pressure to perform well on all tasks that you have seen. And they argue that this need not always be flexible or specialized. Sometimes you can have input layer which is common across tasks, and then output layers which are specific to each task. In that case, the network can be called both specialized and modular. So they ask the rhetorical question, how to stay flexible to new tasks that do not share the same subtasks, and they answer by saying, by explicitly preventing specialization. And they quote some methods from the continual learning literature, specifically ideas around discouraging large changes to existing weights and training only a subset of connections for any given tasks. And that is the end of the paper. Thank you very much.